Okay, so welcome everybody. Today here we have Olga LaPlante, the instructional designer at the University of New England. We have Chris Mamberg, who is also an instructional designer at the University of New England. And we have Susan Graham-Rent, who is, again, an instructional designer at the University of New England. And we all work with online programs. This session is being recorded right now, and we'll make the recording available as soon as it's processed. We are going to speak today about Drive, and specifically Drive for course development. If you've ever collaborated remotely, which most of you have, I'm sure, you know that there are challenges as to how to implement it best. So some of these challenges can be mitigated or even altogether avoided if you use certain technologies. However, you need to know about those technologies and how to best to use them in order to make them efficient and productive. So we're going to discuss some ways to go about this to reduce frustration and increase satisfaction. How do we develop and revise courses? A lot of you are familiar. You are our primary source of course design and course changes. You, the instructor, interact with students and see what's going on and also get feedback from students. We collect that separately as well through course evals. Our primary reason for using Drive is specifically for course design. And we collect information from you guys who are our either content course administrators or subject matter experts or facilitators. All that feedback is valuable, and there's a lot of back and forth, and we have lots of courses going on at the same time. So to facilitate all of that, we use Google Docs and edit logs specifically. But we also use Google Drive for syllabi and other documents pertaining to course design. From instructors, we often need information, very specific information, and that's exactly what we ask in edit logs. If there is a problem, we need to know where it is, so which week, which module, so we don't have to go hunting for that stuff. And what kind of changes are needed and how that relates to the rest of the course. In some programs, we use edit logs. In other programs, there are also Google Forms that I use for the same purpose. But we are going back and forth and create collaborative spaces there. And Google Drive makes it very efficient to do so. We actually use Drive between ourselves quite a bit. In fact, mostly that, and we use that with you as well. Now I'm going to hand this off to Chris, and he will talk specifically about Drive. Here you go, Chris.
Howdy, everyone. Or what is it? Who says howdy, howdy, howdy? I can't remember. Yeah, so as Olga pointed out, we deal with quite a bit of different courses, and so it's really important that the information that we get from different course administrators or instructors of record, or the lingo that we refer to sometimes, subject matter experts, has to be very specific, and it really helps when we have have consistent use of accounts too, that we know the accounts that different instructors are using, and we're sharing the edit logs with those specific accounts, and that is that really helps us keep track of things when we know that we're dealing with the instructor with this particular username at une.edu because, I have a personal Gmail account. It's rainbowwillis@gmail.com. And so when that starts making appearances in different edit logs or in different sort of conversations online between multiple collaborators, it becomes confusing as to who I am and what course we're talking about. And so one of the, sort of taking a step back before we talk about edit logs, real quick, we wanted to stress the importance of using the @une.edu account. And I know, like, I'm just another guy who works at, the University of New England who's like wagging his finger and saying, like, you really need to use your @une.edu account. I don't know why I slurred that, but that's sort of to emphasize how droning that reminder sounds. But it is actually important because we might have like 7 or 8 different people in there, and they might have various different, each person might have a little bit of different like authority when it comes to a course, and that becomes just all the more complicated when we're dealing with like my pink kitty at gmail.com and trying to remember who that is, and oh yeah, that's actually the course administrator. And it one of the things that we want to kind of remind people, and this is old knowledge for some, but it's something that some facilitators, some instructors of record we find need to be reminded, is that at UNE we're given the Outlook account and the Blackboard account, and they have the same username and the same password. And Outlook, Microsoft Outlook, that's how we get our email, and Blackboard is the learning management where courses happen. But we have the same login credentials for Google, where we handle a lot of different things, such as hosting YouTube videos or collaborating in Drive. And it bears mentioning that, and this is a question that I got just the other day, regarding Google, is how do I get my email and send my email through Google, like gmail.com. And there's a workaround where like you're forwarding email perhaps from your Outlook to your Google, but I don't recommend that. It's really, unless you really know what you're doing, that type of thing can be extremely complicated. The truth is you don't have a Gmail account through une.edu, even though your username at une.edu is the same between your Outlook and your Google. Outlook is where you get your mail, and then Google is the login for your Google Apps suite, which includes Drive, it includes Google Calendar, it includes YouTube, it includes all the different Google apps that are turned on here at UNE. And what happens, because Google is so ubiquitous, is that like I want to share a planning document for course development with a particular instructor, and I have that instructor's at une.edu address, and I share with that instructor's at une.edu address. But then through no fault of the instructor, because we're just constantly logged into Google, it's really hard to not be logged into Google, given how ubiquitous it is. The instructor opens the document with his or her personal Gmail account, and that's because in their browser they might be just constantly logged into that account. And I'll show you exactly what that looks like. I'm logged into my personal Gmail account. This is a work-related document, and how many times have you seen this? You need permission. You are signed in as rainbowwillis@gmail.com, and this is again, like, who is rainbowwillis@gmail.com? That's me. I'm proud of that. But this confusion and frustration is totally understandable, because we get requests. We get when you click request access, we get that email that says so and so at gmail.com requests access to this document. Now, in addition to just concerns about security, when we say, okay, there are concerns, just about like keeping track of, exactly who is in that document and keeping track of permissions, which we're going to get into real quick near the end of this presentation. It's we we really strongly just like right up on the verge of saying no to at all involving people with that Gmail accounts. We really strongly suggest that you use only your @une.edu account, and to various degrees we'll enforce that, because we just need to keep control over the access to these sometimes very sensitive documents that might talk about student issues that are very, very FERPA sensitive. So what I'm going to suggest is that you use Chrome. And I'm not pitching everything Google today. That's not why I'm here. But you'll notice that you might or might not notice that I have UNE Malmi up here, and then I have this up here that says Chris. And the reason that that happened, that you see that, is that I actually have several what are called personas. If I click people up here, you can see I have actually two Chris's that I have separate personal Gmail accounts connected to. And if I were to click this, you see like first you see like this has all these different bookmarks that I use for my my personal, they're not work related. I have different extensions here than I do here. I don't have the same bookmarks. I don't have any bookmarks at all through my work related Chrome. And it's very simple. If you just go up to the name up here, if you're not signed in, it'll say like you, and if you click you up there, you can sign in. But I can remove or add, but like if I go to, this is in the way, settings, you can see I'm connected to cmalmberg@une.edu. This is my work account. I can add a person in here and say test person, add, and that's created a whole new person, a whole new account that I can sign into here. I don't have another one that I can sign into, but that person will be added to my list of people up here. So I have my test person, and then I can connect that to a different Google account, and it won't it won't allow the separate windows connected to two different accounts to mix, and it's a really great way, and it won't allow the history in one to mix with another, so you can keep your browser history separate. It'll keep if you sync your passwords with a particular account, your passwords and your account information, it won't allow those to cross. So, and that's maybe the last one's the most important thing, because when I get that link in my email right here, and then I click that link to open it to like a work-related document, if I'm logged into the wrong browser, it won't work. But if I'm logged into this browser, it will, because it remembers which account that particular Chrome persona is connected with. And it's a really fantastic way of keeping your work and your personal separate, and then not having to remember logins for either of them either, because you might have multiple accounts. You might have one tool that might have multiple tools with which you have both a work and a personal account, as in my case. So I keep them entirely separate, and it's really useful. If you want, you can email me. I'll lead you through the process through more directly. But it's something that I really stress in order to avoid this confusion where we are sort of bouncing between our personal and our work-related Google accounts. Chrome actually does that quite well. All hail Google. So that being said, very quickly, not very quickly, this is the meat of the presentation. We wanted to talk about how we use Google Docs for edit logs in Oga and Olga and I use edit logs with the School of Social Work, and this is just a look at one that we've used in the past, and this is shared with the facilitators and the instructor of record for a particular term. And then that, for that term, they have access to this. And anytime they come up against a problem or something that doesn't go very smoothly, they can put their name here, and then they can put the item to be changed, the location, and then kind of like some meta information about it, maybe a case for why it should be changed, or a question, or maybe they don't have a clear idea of how it could be improved, but they just have a sense that it should be. And we get this over the course of the term, and then when it comes time to make updates, and we might take notes down here or get comments from students, then this becomes a conversation document. And you can see the conversation happening over here in comments by Olga and by a facilitator or the instructor of record. And then as we're going down, the list of things and figuring them out and having conversations about them, we can resolve the comments or reply to them and cross things out. So this is the real strength of this document for us. I mean, we want to have the conversation about how the course is working and how we can possibly improve it. We really hope that everyone knows how to get in here and use these things. At the beginning of every term, you should receive, if you're a facilitator or an instructor of record, a link to the edit logs of all of the courses that you're actually facilitating or instructor of recording, and that will actually lead you to this document. It'll also be added to your drive here. And if you have any hard time finding those documents, or if you want some lessons on how to add to them or work within them, please contact us, because we've kind of discovered recently, and it's sort of the reason for this presentation, is that some instructors, some facilitators are a little bit nervous, or they don't know that they can make suggestions here, and especially if it's not a pressing issue, if it's just something that occurs to you, we want to hear about it. So the ease of adding to this document and then starting that conversation, we want people to be comfortable with it. So watch for those emails that are inviting you to these documents. In the School of Social Work, we're going to get to how Ja handles it. That's Susan. Sorry, that's my nickname for because she rocks. So, but Susan and different programs handle it differently. But if you're in the School of Social Work and you're not getting those emails, then let us know, and we'll or if you're getting an email but you're not sure how to progress from there, let us know. We'd love to help you out, because we really want this information from you guys, and just recently heard from a couple of facilitators that maybe we're not getting it. So that is how we handle the edit log, and this is a Google Doc. Susan and her team in education handle things a little bit differently, so I'm going to pass it over to her.
All right. Well, I guess I can just flip that seat. Hi, everybody. By the way, if you have any questions, I know you have a question field that you can feel free to start asking questions of Chris or Olga or myself as we're working along here. As Chris said, Susan and I in education went down the path of getting feedback by using the forms rather than using the edit logs. And for us, we found that using these forms for feedback just was a little different take on getting the same information. And what we've done with providing a form is that it's one link that we send out in an email for all of our faculty. And it gives them an opportunity, because some of our faculty are teaching more than one course, to just have one place that's constant at all times to reach out to us. And we hope we've made it intuitive, and I'm actually going to start filling out these fields a little bit. But these are asking the questions that we as the instructional designers need for those of you who are providing us feedback with to answer. So this really drills down to the level of specificity that we are looking for. What's the nature of your feedback? Is your feedback to provide us an issue that you found on the content? Maybe there's an outdated article. Is there a link that's broken? Is there a typo? Is the gradebook not working? And so what happens is, when faculty fill out this form, and it's somehow asking me for a date, I'm just going to put any old date in here. Each page is really drilling down on where is the issue. Is the issue with the syllabus? Is the issue within a learning module? And then we want you to be as specific as possible. So, for example, if the issue, and I'm going to focus just on a learning module, we would want you to say it's in week 2, in the assignments section, in the 3rd paragraph. I mean, there is no level of specificity that is too much. We would rather you tell us the exact spot of the issue so that we can go in there and make that change. And we can make that change in the master template. We can make that change in your live course, and if there are multiple sections. And that's why it's really important for us to have a form like this, because as Chris said, we as the instructional designers can be working on as many as 8, 10, 20 different courses at any given time. And each course can have anywhere from 1 to, I think in some areas, it could be as many as 5, 6, 7 different sections. So again, the level of specificity really helps us to make sure that the changes are made in an efficient and consistent way for all of the courses and all of the sections. But some issues are more urgent than others. If there's an issue that there's a link that's broken and an assignment is due, we would certainly hope that you would mark that issue as urgent. If you are perusing your course and you see that there's an issue that isn't for an assignment that's due this week, but maybe next week, you can indicate the level of what you think the urgency is for the course to get updated. And in some cases, it may not be an urgent issue, but it's something that you think that the next time the course is taught, it should be considered. Something like that may be updating an article. Perhaps it's something as simple as a test question that students all gave you feedback on. Maybe it wasn't worded very clearly. Okay, that time has passed, and it's not as urgent of a fix, but certainly should be considered the next time. So again, we go through the specificities, and you as the faculty hit submit. Well, how does that information come to Susan and myself? Well, in fact, it A, generates an email to us, and 2, all of your responses get delivered to us in this handy dandy log here. So all of the questions that we asked of you get sent to us so that we can log every single issue that has ever occurred that has been reported in every section of every class. It may seem like a lot of information, and in some cases it is, but it's really important for us to log this so that we can actually resolve the issue and keep a log so that if the issue is something that has come up one term, that we can make sure that we clear that up so it doesn't happen again. If the issue comes up again and is reported in the next time the course is taught, we can actually compare the log and the feedback and find out if the issue is something that's content related or whether it's a feature or functionality of Blackboard, which in some cases, it happens to be. So here's a particularly wonderful, you see some faculty names here on the bottom. Linda Lacoste, I would say, is probably one of the faculty who would win my award for best reporter for edit log issues. She has been really wonderfully clear on where the issue is, what the issue is, whether it's a typo, the content, if she wanted the wording or phrasing to be changed, what she would want it to be changed to. So really, it's that sort of information that we are gathering. What Susan and I will often do, particularly if it's an issue that's marked as urgent, a level 1 or level 2 issue, is we will immediately email the faculty involved with that issue in that course. And we will ask clarifying questions as needed. And we will also always send an email saying that the issue has been resolved. So that is just one of the tools that we use. We also use for our course leads, once a course is ready to be launched for the term, we provide our faculty with a checklist. And these are all of the things that we would want our faculty to read through the course and quality check to see that these elements have indeed been implemented in the course. And we try and make this pretty quick and easy for faculty to complete. And then again, it gets reported back to Susan and myself to make sure that the course is ready for launch. Checklists like these, forms like these are wonderful tools to gather data. Certainly, we hope that as we're explaining how we use these tools for instructional design and feedback, that you'll also know that you can create tools like these yourselves to collect data from your students during your courses. They're really fun ways to engage students in topics of interest as well. So if any of you are interested in how to create a form such as any of these, I'm happy to walk you through and give you a quick tutorial on how to create a form. They really are kind of fun to use, and as you can see, you can create forms that are checklists, button surveys, as well as open-ended questions. So they're really great for using these for different kinds of assessments as well. And I'm going to hand this back to Chris.
Hey again. Thank you so much, Susan. And she actually did a really good job of connecting me to what I was going to close this with, because all of the things that we've covered are things that not only can you can do with your students, but your students can actually do too. These tools, the Google apps, are, they exist for students to use as well. And, they can be collaborating. Olga and I have worked on a number of courses where students are collaborating on Google Docs, and then using the revision history, you as the instructor can see just what things specific students might have been working on, so that you know that student's responsible for that amount of work. You can kind of monitor that sort of thing in a Google Doc, and it makes it very easy. And also Google Forms, where we're talking primarily to graduate school instructors here now today, and working primarily with grad programs where students are expected to do a respectable amount of research in many cases, and forms are a fantastic way of doing that. So not only on the front end with the form, but also on the back end with the spreadsheet that the form appends to. And there are many ways that you can control these types of collaborations with your students or with each other. Every single document has, in Drive, has many different granular settings for permissions that allow us, when we're collaborating with you, to generally we give you editing permissions over, like, say, this document, this edit log document, because we want you to be able to type and to comment and to change again, so that we can, we want as little hindrance in your way as possible. But, when you might be collaborating with your students, or your students might be working with each other, you might introduce more sharing permissions controls. So, you can see that here. I can make it so that Olga, or I can make it so that myself, let me be kind here, I can only comment or view or what have you. And that allows this, document, which is, at times sensitive, to remain perfectly under our control and private, except for those who are working on it, and only giving those who are working on it exactly as much control as they need. And this is just when this is recorded and it goes up on MS Weekly Tip, which is our blog. I'll link to this so that people can find it very easily. But this is just a quick rundown of how those permissions control the power over the document, and it's pretty rock solid as far as controlling that document and keeping it safe, and making it so that it is a tool that you can encourage or design your courses so that students are using it more, using the powers of Google Drive and Google Docs and Google Forms more in their research and in their assignments. So that's something we wanted to close on, just reminding you that if you saw something and you're like, wow, that's super cool, and I want to do that with my students, or have my students doing that, we want to help you do that. Primarily, though, what we want to remind you guys, though, is that you guys are our source on whether or not things are working in a course, and we need that information as to be as specific and as detailed and as ruthless as possible, so that we can make the changes that you guys need. And I guess that is it. If you guys have any questions, you can type them in the question box, and we'd be happy to answer them. Oh, we do have a connected cheat sheet that is under the handouts, and you should have access to that. We'll also connect that on the post that we'll be putting this recorded presentation in on MS Weekly Tip. But Susan says she has a question.
The point that I was going to make, or issue that I was going to bring up, is that there have been a few times where I have gotten or shared documents, Google documents, with faculty, adjuncts, and other colleagues, and I have said, oh, let's share this document, just work right in it, and then let me know when you're finished. And I have sometimes gotten that document as a Word document, not as the Google document, and I've gotten it as an attachment. And so what's really fascinating to me by that is that Google, in fact, is a very easy to use tool, so much so that it automatically saves changes that are made, and that once that document is shared, that the collaborators can go back and use that document, that it does not indeed have to be downloaded into a Word document and sent as an attachment. So I just wanted to make that point, that Google is sometimes smarter than we humans are, that it just automatically does a lot of the features and functions that with other tools like Microsoft Word, we have to click things and make sure that they're saved and attached and sent.
Yeah, that's a good point. Oh, and we do have another question. I will get right to that, Jack. We feel the impulse to click save, and in Google, save looks like this. It looks like file, download as Microsoft Word, and it's like there's no save, and I am really nervous not clicking save. And you know, it's actually totally fine to download as a Microsoft Word document and to back stuff up. Like that impulse I entirely respect. And one of the dangers, though, of downloading the Word document and then sending that document to collaborators is that suddenly you have two copies, and those copies could go in two different directions, and that's called a duplication. I'm not sure if it's a fallacy or what, but it is a duplication error where when you have collaborators who are accessing what they think is one document or the document and then making changes, you can have people replicating work that's already done, or you can have the project going in two different directions at once. So that's another reason why we try and keep things here in Drive. Jack asks, as an adjunct instructor, is it best to contact the IOR for any changes that might need to be made? That's a fantastic question, Jack. Thank you so much for asking that. We love I'm a big fan of everything being out in the open, which has ruined friendships. But I think that it depends on a lot on how your program wants to run things. I think that Olga and I would like to have the conversation started with the course administrator, so that if you see something and you just have an opinion about it, then the edit log is where you can say, you know what, this kind of looks a little funny, or this could work a little differently. And it doesn't have, it doesn't have to be, the kind of the reason for the edit log is that it can be kind of low stakes. It can be a place where you can sort of voice your opinion about things, and you don't necessarily have to kowtow to one person's vision, because together we're all going to actually process a much more complicated and sincere idea of what's going on. And so if you're seeing something, we'd love to hear about it, and the edit log is definitely where you can do that without, the other side of this is where you make a change in your section, and then your section's different from other sections, and then we're running around with our heads cut off trying to make things work. So especially if it's not something that is dire, if it's just something that you see, we'd love to hear about it. And again, that depends on your program. It depends maybe on your relationship with your IOR, but we would like to hear about it. Thank you, Jack, for the question. Anything else?
I'll weigh in for education.
Susan's got something to say.
I will say for education, we do prefer to make the changes ourselves, because really well-intentioned adjuncts have inadvertently broken a few things in the grade book and otherwise. So if it's a quick and easy typo, that's one thing, but there are some other features and functionality that has absolutely nothing to do with humans, but the fact that Blackboard can be a very tricky tool to use. So for those of you who are listening who are education folks, please send any issues to Susan and myself.
Yeah, I think that I'll double down on that. I mean, what I mean is, what I meant before is that definitely 99 times out of 100 don't change anything. It's just, if you have an idea, the edit log, if it's dire, an email might be more efficient way of getting hold of either Olga or I, because this is a distinction between how the edit logs function. Susan gets notifications yes, she does. She's nodding her head. If people submit a form to get her attention. So if it is dire, then the form for you education folks is a very efficient way of getting a hold of Susan. For Olga and I, more dire problems, it's probably best to email us. The edit log exists just sort of as almost like a journal for how things are going and what you see. And what I mean, in my response to Jack is if you see something, say something. So like, because otherwise, if you're censoring yourself, then it gets lost, and we don't know. We're not in the course, so it's really important that we can sort through the good ideas and the bad ideas later, but we want all of the ideas, so that we can make the best decisions possible when refreshing the course. Do we have any other questions? Okay, I think we're going to end it. If you have any questions or any desires of contacting any of the three of us for anything, please don't hesitate to do so. Olga, do you have any closing remarks?
No, I don't. Just thank you. Thanks everybody for your participation and attendance. And just to repeat, this recording will be available on our weekly tip blog, and we'll send it out to everybody.